Welcome to the Airflow Podcast. I'm your host, Rickey Thomas, and this is the place where Kingdom heirs go to be informed and inspired. So sit back, relax, and flow with me. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Airflow Podcast. I'm your host, Rickey Thomas, and I just thank you for joining me again as we continue to move forward in our journey together through each episode that we do. I am happy to be back. I know I've taken some time off this last week. Obviously, I didn't come with a new episode. I was spending time with family, as I mentioned previously, celebrating the life of our dear Aunt Pat, Patricia McGee, who passed away on January the 11th. So just spending time with family and friends, celebrating her life. And it was a good time. It was a healing time. And obviously we continue to move forward. So appreciate all the prayers, the thoughts from my wife, her family, all of our family. She was definitely a great influence and a great help to my wife and I in our marriage, and my wife obviously growing up and through her life and with our kids. So it was good to just celebrate her. I think everything went well. So part of the reason that I chose the topic that I did for this for this particular episode is called Keep It Moving. And one of the things that I always, I have different ideas for episodes, and I say this all the time, but one of the things I do is I always, look for inspiration. Of course, I look up to God to figure out, where should I go at this point? What's the message? Where do I go? And Keep It Moving just came because, there's different things that we go through in life, challenges. And I just think about the challenges that face the family now. Whenever you lose somebody, and we've all faced it at different times, there's different family members, whether it be grandparents, parents, siblings, for some people, children, close friends, whatever that loss is, or whatever that challenge is, even if it's not a loss of a person or anything, just the challenges that we face every day in life. The one thing that I always know is life keeps moving on. It has to. And even in situations where someone has passed away, you do have to make sure that you're grieving and you go through the process. You have to do that. But you also know, and this is stuff that I share with my wife, especially during this time, is that the last thing that Aunt Pat would want us to do is to stop living, stop achieving, stop doing the things that we've been doing and continue to take things to another level. And knowing that, again, it's kind of one of those reminders, like, the pain is there, but I've got to get up. I've got to keep going. So Keep It Moving is the title of this one. And, I want to start off with a quote that I read. I read it a while back, and it kind of came up again just in some of the research that I was doing, but it's from Will Rogers. And the quote says that even if you are on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. And I like that quote because a lot of times we get ourselves positioned, we're in the right position where we're right where we need to be. And, a challenge comes or something happens and we kind of just stop, we just stop there, we're like, okay, we're turned in the right direction. We're there, but we just stop. And, with this quote saying that, you'll get run over if you just sit there, because everybody else that's on that path is going to be, continuing to go. They may not have that experience. They're not connected with us. Things keep moving. Life keeps going on. I was just thinking about, everybody, the world, talk about recessions and things like that. Everybody didn't experience a recession. There's not money out there. Nobody's doing this. I see houses and, properties being put up everywhere around the greater Nashville area. New businesses are coming up everywhere. And so I say life keeps moving on. I mean, somebody loses their job, and the company, guess what? They're going to keep moving. Your coworkers are going to keep moving on. They're going to miss you if you were, the type of person who, made an impact, but they're going to keep going on from a business perspective. If you decide to leave that job, guess what? They're going to keep moving on. they're going to find a way. They're going to replace you, so it's just really getting that mindset. And it's not just, things that we decide to do, but it's those challenges, when we go through difficult times. I always think about, when we get confronted with difficult times, a lot of times we want to pull back. It's almost like a natural function. We figure out a way to put things on pause because we've got to analyze and go through all these things. And sometimes it is good to take a step back, and sometimes you need to do that, but it shouldn't be a permanent step back to where I'm not going to move forward with what I wanted to do, my dreams and my goals, because things got a little hot. We can't allow ourselves and allow difficult experiences to really derail us from pursuing our dreams. And it can be easy, like I said, just because you get focused on the challenge. You put all your time and energy into the challenge and why am I dealing with this challenge? And, whatever it is, and you keep trying to fight that challenge, or deal with that challenge. And I mean, deal with it like you stay in it, is mentally and physically just consuming you. And it stops you from moving forward because you're not focused on how do I get out of this? I'm focused on this. All my conversations are on that thing. And so we got to understand that when life pushes us to the ground, we have to force ourselves back up again, and I say force ourselves back up because sometimes it's not just, sometimes you can have people to help pick you up, but if you're not ready to stand on your own and you're not ready to get up, that pickup is good, but you've got to commit to standing up and continue to move forward. And then understand that, as we keep fighting, it's always about just taking that one small step forward. That is a positive step. Figuring out a way, like I got to move, even if it's a small thing. How can I push this thing to the next place? How can I, I'm trying to get this thing going with a business. I keep finding all these different challenges and all this red tape. Like, how do I move forward? What is that thing okay, what can I do today? What small thing can I do? Who can I talk to that can help me go through the process? Those are the things that we've got to continue to do. And I know it's tough, right? It's tough to move forward when we're going through and we're experiencing rough times. It is because, again, you get consumed with the challenge. It's like my thought process is, how do I go on? Just to go back to the loss of a loved one, you go and you think to yourself, like, how can I make it each day? How can I go through each day knowing that I can't call this person, especially if somebody you talk to all the time? How does my life go on like this? And that is difficult. I'm not sitting here saying that, yeah, you just gotta, people say pick yourself up by the bootstraps, and no, I'm not saying that, but you've got to find a way. You've got to figure out what to do and know that grief is never going to, it will go away with some help. Sometimes it's counseling, sometimes it's really just facing it, but you've got to face it. But once you get to that point, you got to say, I've got to continue moving because my life, I'm still here, and my life has to continue to move in purpose, or I'm just wasting time, wasting space, and just really, if, we keep moving forward, we're going to eventually overcome that struggle, and we will. But we've got to continue to move. We can't sit still. If we keep moving, keep going, you avoid the stagnation. And that's important. Because not even dealing with, the loss of a family member or friend, but just getting doors closed in your face or hearing news about something that isn't favorable to your situation. A lot of times when people hear one no, they're like, oh, I'm done. See, this is why I didn't want to do this, because I'm hearing these no's. I'm getting these challenges come up. And it's like, every time I think I'm moving forward, and people say it out of their mouths, every time I take one step forward, I get pushed 2 steps backwards. And it's like, it's always a negative gain, and you keep saying that, and it keeps, it's like a perpetual thing. It keeps happening. Well, why? Well, one, and we talk about this before, the power of the tongue. You keep putting it out there like that, it's going to continue to happen. So at some point, you got to make up in your mind, like, I got to break that cycle, and once you understand that, when you develop that willingness to move on and move forward, it can actually help us to explore new opportunities where other people see only problems. Now you start to become a problem solver because you get out of that, get out of your head, you get out of your, out of your way. The challenge is not the thing that's stopping you from moving forward. The challenge is the thing that's helping you to move forward, because now you're figuring out, how can I solve this problem? There may be a challenge in this, but I've got some ideas and I can help other people, or I can see here's an opportunity for me to move forward and to create something great out of it. And that's a shift in your mindset. And a lot of people, they don't want to go through that, because some people like to just stay in that vein. And I'll just say, one of the most important things to really note in this situation is that when we move forward, it helps us to really stop complaining about the struggle, and it makes you do something about it. I get frustrated. Everybody has a pity party at times. Everybody goes through those moments where, it's like, I got to vent, I want to complain, but it's like, okay, now I've done that, I got to move forward. And I tell, in my career, I tell people that I manage, like, I'm going to give you an opportunity to vent, because everybody needs to get stuff off your chest. I'm just going to sit there to listen. That I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to listen to what you got to say. But at some point, I can't just be there to listen. You got to tell me, okay, you're complaining about this, you're venting about that, but what can we do to change it? Give me some suggestions, because that could be the ticket to your career advancement. That could be the idea for a business that nobody's thought about, because a lot of times things get created out of necessity, out of struggle. A lot of patents are created because there was something, or some challenge that somebody faced, and they figured out a way to tackle that problem. So again, you have to start, stop complaining about the struggle and figuring out a way to actively do something. If you complain about it all day, then that complaining consumes you. And you're not, at that point, you're not thinking about, how can I move forward? How can I get out of this? It's just always focused on the struggle. That's why when people talk about the struggle, if you grew up in a modest upbringing, or you struggled, you didn't have money, there was a lot of challenge in your upbringing. A lot of people talk about that, but there's the ones that are successful. They use that as fuel to say, I never want to go back to that place again. So I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that I don't go back there. My family never has to experience that. And so they start thinking of ways to move, and prayerfully powerful, positive ways to move forward. But figuring out ways so that you don't have to experience that, and that's turning that challenge into really triumph, because you go from a place of, like Drake says, started from the bottom. Now you're here, and you've been at a bottom, and everybody's bottom is different. It's subjective to the person. But again, you went from a low place to a high place. And one thing about life that I think we all understand when we talk about keeping it moving is that life is going to continue to move on, no matter how unfair we believe it can be. We just have to understand that what really matters is that we have the willingness to keep going. And that's important, because yes, life can be unfair, but the unfairness in life is happening to everybody. I can't sit here and gripe on how unfair things are. Yes, racism exists. Yes, bigotry exists. Yes, all these things happen. But if my focus is that I can't do anything, if I create the narrative, or I live by the narrative that I can never be as big as this person or that person because the color of my skin, then I will never achieve. I will never go to that place. I will miss out on opportunities because I'm speaking and I've developed this mentality that I'm stuck in this box because of who I am, who my ancestors are. And if you believe that, now, I didn't say there's not challenges because of that, because those things exist. Yes, there are challenges, but I refuse to allow myself to stop doing what I need to do because of those challenges that they exist. But thank God I have favor. I figure out how to navigate through and around some of those things, and God has protected me through that. But it's the mindset that I'm not letting that be the thing to stop me. So having that willingness to keep going is really important in everything. There's a quote that I shared on social media. I think it was earlier this week. And the quote basically said that it said, being challenged in life is inevitable. Being defeated is optional. And that was powerful. And I'll repeat it again. Being challenged in life is inevitable. Being defeated is optional. So we are going to be challenged, and we will. But if you choose to be defeated, it's a choice. You can be defeated. You can say, I lost and take that L, or you can say, I learned. Like I said, I've talked about it before. It was a lesson learned. I didn't lose. I didn't get defeated, because getting defeated is just quitting and, checking out completely. Life, the challenges in life are going to happen, but they are there to help us to grow stronger. That is so important. I share it with my kids all the time. Life is not going to be perfect. As you get older, you will start to experience things at a different place because you're starting to become more mature. Your brain is starting to pick up on things. You're seeing the world a little bit differently as you're going through that maturation process. You start to question things. You start to be exposed to certain things as you get up into age. And some of those things can be challenging for kids going into, adolescent, teenage years and young adults. It's a challenge. And I mean, even for us as adults, going through and watching our kids go through those things, we want to try to shield and shelter them as much as we can. But sometimes the Band-Aid just comes off and you've got to deal with that thing. And that's part of life. You will have those challenges, but it's how you approach it. If you say, yes, I know I'm going to be challenged. It's like the Bible verse, no weapon formed, Isaiah 54:17, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. The weapon will be formed. You will have weapons that come against you. You will have challenges that come in life, but they won't prosper if you have the faith, if you have the mentality to say, I'm not going to lose. I'm going to take some lessons out of this, and I'm going to come back and reevaluate things and come back and be stronger than what I was the first time. But I'll be better so that I can look back. When I look back at my journey, all of us should be able to look back at our journey and say, I went through those tough times. Man, how much stronger did I get from that? I think about my college years. We were just talking about, a little earlier, my wife and my sister, my younger sister, and my daughter, we were just talking about colleges, and it made me just think about when I was in college, how crazy some of the experiences were for me, and how challenging it was for me as a young man, trying to figure out who I am and then deal with some of the challenges of the world and just all these things that are coming about. When I look back and I say, I thank God for that. Because one, I'm still here, but it made me stronger. And I appreciate some of them, because of that. It helped me to really be a stronger person. So again, being challenged in life is inevitable. Being defeated is optional. You choose if you want to lose. If you choose to take it as a loss, or you can choose to take it as a lesson learned. The choice is yours. Another thing I want to, bring up is that when things get tough, that isn't the time for us to start looking for something or someone to blame. And I say that because it's easy to do. It's easy to point the finger. It's easy to say the reason why I didn't get this, or I didn't get this job, or I didn't, get this grant, or I didn't get this, or this didn't happen for me is because of this, and that. That person, he or she, they did this, or they didn't allow me to do this, or because the way the system is, I couldn't get this. And everything is a reflection of, or a deflection of, personal accountability. Everything is the blame. And so when that happens, and again, I talk about this a lot, But then you start to get that victim mentality, and then playing the victim will not help you move on in life. You can't move forward in life playing the victim. Playing the victim, especially in a time when you're not the victim, you're making yourself that character. You're putting yourself in that role because it's easy. It's easy to do that and not accept, accountability for and take responsibility for what happens, in some parts of your life. Being a victim will immobilize you, and discourage you from even attempting to try to break free, because you get into this place of comfort being a victim, because now everything is happening to me. I need pity. I need, people need to understand what I'm dealing with. People need to, and it's everybody needs to hear, and there's times where you will be a victim but it's not because you chose to be. It's because something did happen to you and you are legitimately a victim. But even in that moment of being a victim, you don't live in it. You get empowered from it and you move forward. Like, okay, yes, this happened to me. One of the worst things I can remember growing up in the home of my parents in Michigan with my siblings is getting our house broken into. Now, as a kid, I know I probably looked at it different than my parents. I can imagine how my father felt, knowing that his place of refuge, the place that he is, sworn to protect, and the people that are in it, you come into the house and, your stuff is gone, or somebody has broken windows and taken things out of it. And it's a bad feeling, right? He didn't take that opportunity to say, okay, I'm just going to give up. I'm up. We're going to move. We're going to do this, going to that. It's like, no, we got to secure things a little bit better. We got to be a little bit more vigilant. We've got to, figure out ways to be stronger through the process. And we did. He didn't show signs of weakness. He just jumped into action, patched up the broken window and then got another window put in there, the next day, doing all he had to do. But he kept moving. He had a strength because he knew he had a role to play. He didn't allow himself to sit there as a victim and he could have easily just sat there and called, he did call the police, but he could have sat there and just said, you know what, I'm going to let the police come and I'm a victim and pity. And, it's like, no, we're going to get through this. We'll be all right. We're not the first person to ever have our house broken into. We're not going to be the last. So what can we do to ensure that this isn't going to happen again? How can I make sure as a husband and a father that my kids and my wife feel comfortable and safe and, make things happen? He didn't allow himself to stay in that victim role, because he's got responsibilities. And that's the same thing as what I'm going with this. We can't stay in that victim role because we will keep ourselves locked into that place. And that's not a good place to stay in. The other part is, and some people, I've been around a lot of people. I've got family like that. And, just people I hear talk a lot about it, but, life is not about counting how often and measuring how hard it's hit you. It's not about, basically like, hey, I got beat up or life has beat me up this many times. And it's like a badge of honor. I deal with struggle. I got this struggle going on. It's like everybody's trying to one up everybody. Like, oh, I dealt with this. Oh, I dealt with that. I grew up in this neighborhood. I grew up in this neighborhood. It was the worst neighborhood and blah, 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 and everything is the focus of the struggle. And you're constantly counting, how bad I stay in the struggle. It's almost like like I want to stay in the struggle because, again, it's almost like it's a badge of honor, but it's not, so it's not about counting how often or measuring how hard it's hit you. Because again, when you're doing that means you're taking time to constantly remind yourself and stay in that moment or that mode of something challenging happening, staying in that victim mode, and that's not what it's about. It's about finding ways to get up, thinking about going back. It's not, and I'm not saying forget it. I'm not saying forget what you've learned, forget what you've dealt with as, through life, those challenges. I'm saying don't focus on the problem, focus on what you did to get through that, to get to where you are today. because that's the part of the journey that helps you continue to move forward, because that's what gives you the faith and the strength to say, I dealt with that and I made it, even if I had help. And most of the time we do, but with this person's help, or even if I had to, this was one I had to do on my own, I made it. That's where you draw your strength from. That's what makes you strong. That's why challenges are inevitable. But, again, if you stay defeated, then you make the choice. You take the option to stay in that way, and you won't get that strength that you're supposed to get because you totally just, focused on the problem and never got past that problem. And you probably just diverted to something else. And that problem is still there. It's still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. You just haven't dealt with it yet. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So just understanding that it's about finding ways to get back up and move forward. That's what life is. Not focusing on the problem, focus on the challenge. So what I want to do in the remaining time that I have is start to really look at what are some tips to help us move forward. And there's a few of them that I picked out, and I think they're good. And I say us because, again, I've got to remind myself of some of this stuff. And it's life can throw some curveballs, and I don't want people to say that Rickey's on here and he's just acting like he's got all the answers. No, because this is encouraging as always to me, but I think it's good to hear. We've got to hear it. And we've got to really look at how we can keep moving forward, because that's how we overcome. That's how we get to the place that we're supposed to. We're not going to make it to what God purposed and planned for our lives as heirs just by thinking we're going to walk in. It's not going to be a test. There's not going to be a challenge. There's not going to be opposition. We've got to go through our own challenges of strength. We go through our own tests that God puts in front of us to see if we're ready for the next step. We've got opposition that we got to deal with, domestic, foreign, whatever. It can be our own family that sometimes it's that opposition that we deal with. But all those things are in play. So it's really important to understand how to keep moving forward. So here's a few things. The first thing that I want to talk about is really change how you think about the challenge, the hardship. And when you think about that, a lot of it goes back to your attitude. Your attitude will play a big part in how you move away from the challenge or navigate through the challenge to defeat it, to complete it, defeat it, and move into that next place. Because if your mind isn't ready, if you just think like, oh, here's another challenge, and you just kind of break down and I don't feel like dealing with this, and you're focused on, here I go, here's another thing put in front of me. Here's, I had a coworker back in the day that said, if it wasn't for bad luck, I have no luck at all. And I thought that was like one of the worst things ever. I mean, I actually politely and professionally corrected her. I'm like, come on, you gotta, let's talk this through. And me and her talked about it, and she was like, you're right, I just had a bad day. And I was like, we all do. But to say that, one, no, I don't believe in luck, but to say that if it wasn't for bad luck, I have no luck at all, that was like, to me at the time, was one of the craziest things. But it was her attitude. And the thing about it is she was always very vocal about the challenges that she had in her life. And every day she spoke about the challenges, and even other people around who weren't the biggest positive speakers, they were still like cringing and they would try to help her, I wouldn't say correct her, but they would try to kind of talk her off the ledge a little bit, because, it was draining to the environment. It was almost toxic in a way, because every day it was this new challenge. And it's like, you keep speaking these kind of things and they keep happening, and it's no wonder you're dealing with this. And then she started changing what she said. And then all of a sudden you start to see things change. Her attitude, she started having better days, and the people will ask her, how's it going? I'm doing better. Things are going good, this and that. Cause she had some problems, with her personal problems. And then she had things going on at work, and it was just all this drama. And she just kept talking about it. I was like, it consumed her. So when she stopped doing that and started really focusing on things that that she can control and things that can help her get out of, that mindset. It was a whole different thing. And she was a different person for that. So it was cool to see that. And I see it all the time. But just, when we talk about, changing how we think about challenges, we got to understand that suffering cannot be avoided. You're going to go through times where you're suffering. It's like I said, challenges are inevitable. You're going to have times where you suffer. And again, it's relative to the person, because some people suffering may be just an average day for other people. Some people may experience things and they can handle certain things better than others. But whatever that is, any kind of suffering, it won't be avoided. But we have to understand that we're not powerless. We can influence how we respond to struggle. And that is going to be a very key point in all of this. We can influence how we respond to struggle. We can take it and just let it go. We can take it and just live in that struggle, can stay in that moment, stay in that pool of pity, or we can say, all right, it happened. Now I know it happened. Let's move. I'm going to move forward. I'm ready. I'm ready to get out of this. I can't live my life in this place all the time. Another tip is use your experiences to grow stronger. And I mentioned that earlier. One of the biggest things that I try to do is when I am going through a challenge, and I think, man, this is going to be tough, I start to reminisce. And it's almost like in sitting there, God will kind of give me this, flash moments past me, in visions, dreams, or whatever, of things that I've dealt with in life. And it's almost like he's speaking to me, reminding me, like, remember these times I brought you through. So I'm going to bring you through this. And so that's what kind of developed. I kind of get this attitude of, and my wife says, you almost feel like you're being nonchalant when these things happen. I'm like, it's not, I'm nonchalant. It's just, I truly feel like God has brought me through so much that he's going to bring me through this. And, I'm able to sleep at night because of that. Some people, they stay up, they can't sleep. I'm not saying it doesn't bother me. I don't get worried at times. I do, but I quickly just say, okay, God, you got this. You have to. This is, I'm giving this to you. So going back on those experiences, because we've all gone through challenges. Like I said, suffering cannot be avoided. We've all had challenges. We've all dealt with it. And so if you're listening to me right now, that means that you've gone through something and you've made it through to be where you're at today, to hear me talking about this now. Think about those times and use that to show how strong you can be. You didn't have to have somebody pull you through to get to where you got. You had help, but you made it. You had to draw your own strength and use that as encouragement. And I guarantee you'll be in a better place. The next thing is, don't try to run from the problem. Face them. And that can be tough. Now, there are some caveats I always throw in there with that statement, because there are times where God will have us move away or step back from a problem until we could be prepared to handle that. Sometimes some problems we face in moments where we're not necessarily ready, and God isn't ready for us to take that problem on, or he realizes that we're not at the place we need to be. And so we may get shielded from it unknowingly. We think the problem just disappeared, and it's like, it may not have disappeared. God just kind of hid us from it or moved us away from it so we can be prepared, because that problem is still there. It's going to come back. Again, unless God said this is something from the enemy, he's removing it. But a lot of challenges and a lot of things God wants us to go through them, because it's a testament of our faith. And so I say that, cautiously, I say that in a way because I don't want people to think that, running from problems is always a bad thing. There are situations where you just have to say, you know what, I can't face this by myself. I need help. And that's not running. That's just going to get help so you can deal with them and get stronger. But you always have to, at some point, you have to deal with the problem. the problem never just goes away. It never just disappears to the place where it's like, it'll never come up again. It's going to come back, but the next time it comes back, you'll probably be a stronger person. Um, and that's when you'll look back and say, yeah, I remember I was having struggles with this before, and then it just seemed to go away, but it came back this time. Maybe it's a little bit stronger, but I was able to get through it. It was a challenge, but I got through it. So, face the problems as best as you can, and allow God to intervene and help you navigate through that. I think that's going to be very important. One of the other things is to keep moving forward, but do it patiently. And that's one for me that I've had to sort of grow with over the past, few years, is that you always want to go to the next place. You want to get there fast. You want to hurry up and kind of streamline it. You want to take a beeline to it and not have to, like a Monopoly, go straight, go around, pass, go, collect $200, you bypass everything, go right to go. You don't have to go through the pitfalls on the board, potentially having to pay rent to everybody else that owns all these properties. You go straight to go, get your money. And it's like, phew, I didn't have to deal with that. But sometimes you got to be patient. You've got to go through the paces. And when you do it patiently, again, it helps to strengthen you, because you are not, you're not avoiding the things that God wants you to experience. Trying to go fast isn't always the best way to deal with it. Fast isn't always good. Fast may actually hurt you more than it can help you, because some of those experiences that you should be going through, you're avoiding and you're not dealing with them. So when you get to a place where, you need to draw back from it, that's when you take those few steps back instead of taking a step forward. And now you feel like you're going backwards and things. So be patient, understand that, steady growth, steady gains, that one step forward, as long as it's positive, if the net gain, if it is a positive gain, then it's better than nothing. It's better than going to a negative gain, or a negative or a loss. So always move forward and be patient with it, just knowing that things will speed up. Things will get better because you get stronger and you start dealing with challenges a lot easier, a lot faster. So that's why patience is always key. You have to have patience. Next thing is, keep your goals in mind. So as you're going through that challenge, think about the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. When you go to school and you're in college, you get to that last couple of semesters, 2-3 semesters. And you're like, man, I'm so tired of school. I'm tired of this process of, going to class, doing these papers. I got all these projects I got to do to graduate. All this stuff is going on, and you're just wanting to give up. You just want, I can't deal with this. But think about it, think about the goal. The goal is, I'm almost there. I'm closer to the finish line than I am to the starting line, which means I'm almost there. Think about that. Think about, you're going through those challenges of, starting a business and dealing with everything. Just think about when you get to the place where all the work that you're doing is to get that business to operate on autopilot. You're automating things. Now you have, you're doing the work now, so that I know when I get to that place, that when I get to that light, that everything will be so simple. I'll be making money without having to really do much work. That's a great thing. But in the beginning, it may not be that way. But understanding, what the goals are, and know what you're going to get out of that, and what the purpose is for you doing it. The challenges start to shrink, because the outcome that's coming out of it. So definitely keep your goals in mind. The next thing is, don't regret what happened. Learn to accept it. Without acceptance, you really can't make progress, real progress at least. And you've got to free yourself from the burden that regret has placed on you. So we know a lot of times we go through things, again, I can attest to this, where I've regretted something that I've done. I don't care if it was recently, if it was when I was younger. And if you let that regret just manifest or continue to just grow and grow, it will totally stop you from moving forward. You know, it's not to say that you don't forget about it. It's not to say that you don't seek forgiveness or, repent and do whatever you can to make the situation better if possible. It's not saying you don't do that, but what that's saying is you have to accept what happened. Do whatever repenting and anything you can do, but then from there you've got to move forward. Because again, you'll allow yourself to be stuck in quicksand, and you're not moving anywhere. You're just going down, you're sinking. That acceptance is really going to be key. You have to accept what's going on. What happened. It's there. It's done. There's nothing that you and I can do to move forward. And it's important to make sure that that there's nothing you and I can do to go back and change what happened. It is what it is. Yeah. Well, I don't like saying it is what it is, but it has happened. Did you learn from it? Have you repented? Have you sought out forgiveness? If you have, then you've got to release yourself, because you've done what you did what you were supposed to do. You've sought out the forgiveness, and if hopefully you've obtained it. And even if you didn't obtain it, you have to say, well, I at least did my part and I apologize. I changed in my life. I did the things that I was supposed to do. Now I have to move forward. I've got to move on. And that's challenging, but again, you've got to accept it and move on. Take responsibility, move on. That's important. Last couple of things is, and this one is a big one, but seizing the power of the moment, the now. Living in the past will not get you unstuck to help you move into that next place. If you stay in there, you're going to be stuck. If you stay in that past moment. And then if you worry about the future, it's not going to help you get going forward. So there are people who can stay focused on the past. Everything is in the past. And of course, they don't bring themselves into the present. And then you can be so focused about what's going to happen in the future that, again, you're not moving your present forward. So you're kind of in this holding pattern. And it's important to understand that things in the past cannot be changed, but the future is not set in stone. So this is where being in the moment is so important, because I can't change what I did. I can't change what happened. I can't change the decision I made, but I can make new decisions. I can make new things happen today that will ultimately help my tomorrow. But I have to shift my mind out of saying that I'm a victim and taking that power now to say, I'm going to make this change. I'm going to do this today. I can't help if I gained, I said I was going to, and this is probably, and I know this happens because I've done it. At the beginning of the year, I said I was going to lose all this weight, and, here we are at the end of the month of January, and I haven't done it. So if I stay focused on, I didn't do what I was supposed to do, I'm behind on my goal, and I'm not losing any weight, and I'm not where I wanted to be, at the beginning of the year. If you stay there, then guess what? You're not going to move forward, because you're going to keep eating and keep doing the things, or not doing the things you're supposed to do in the present, so that the future, whatever that goal is for the future, whatever that plan was for you to lose weight and go through a lifestyle change or whatever to be healthy, you will miss out on that opportunity. And of course, missing out on an opportunity because you don't take advantage of the moment that you're in. So understanding that, the past cannot be changed, but the future isn't set in stone. So start now. I'm going to wait until the beginning of the month and start at a clean, because again, those are the things that you're not taking power of the moment. You're going to wait for the future to do something that you can start today. And with that as well is understanding that if we do these things, if we do that in terms of seizing the power of the moment, it shifts our perspective to really focus on what we can do now to build the future. So again, take the now. Start tomorrow. For those that have been off, if you didn't go to the gym like you were supposed to, for those that are going to gym still, if you didn't do the workout routine, if you didn't do the meal plan, start today, start tomorrow, but just take that time now. And the last thing, and I spoke about it a little bit earlier, but the last thing that we can do to, it's kind of a tip to help us keep moving forward, is to take responsibility. And taking responsibility, accountability, taking responsibility, those are key things for me. And just understanding that if you can't take responsibility of your own faults, I don't know how you can move forward, because when you're not taking responsibility, you're sort of hiding from it. And then you're going to be, and I say this, that you're going to be kind of that contestant in a blame game. And as the contestant, you're going to be the one that's always the victim. And you're going to lead yourself to be helpless and unable to do anything about the situation. That is not that's not how you move forward. You've got to be active in moving forward, and you've got to own your own mistakes. And that's vital in the process. You've got to own it. You've got to own it. You may have made a bad decision. The key thing that I always share is that, but you are here today. You got up. You made the mistake. You fell down. You dust yourself off. You got up another day. We're here today. We're here right now. You're listening to me. You have an opportunity to move forward. Stop the blame. Take responsibility. Maybe somebody lied to you. Maybe somebody took advantage of you. But ask yourself, did I do the research that I was supposed to do? For some people, and I know this is going to hit a lot of people, for some people that invest in stocks and crypto, did you really research the company? Did you take advice from somebody who, knows nothing about stock? They just heard something and they gave it to you, and you was like, oh, I'm going to try that out. And then you did it and you lost a bunch of money. A lot of people lose money in stock, but if you have a sound strategy, then you'll get your money back. So it's not a loss, and you can't blame anybody for that. But if you just go blindly into something, you got to ask yourself, well, did I took my money and blindly invested in something without even checking on it. So whose fault is that? But you've got to be active in moving forward, and being active in moving forward is being active in saying, I own my mistakes. I'm present in the moment to know I made a mistake. I have to own that. I'll take full responsibility. I'm accountable for it. I want to be held accountable. I did it wrong. My strategy was wrong. If I'm not, I have a conversation, and this is a good example. I have a conversation with my son. He plays basketball. He's a good basketball player, but he wants to take it to the next level. And I always tell him, I say, look, when you watch film, when you look at the things that you can do better, or when you look at things, if you only focused on what you did good and not focused on what you can do better, you're not going to grow. That's one thing I told him when he started watching film himself. Like, it looks pretty to look at yourself shooting a 3-pointer and go swishing in. It's like, oh, that's great. Yeah, that looks good. But what about the defensive assignment that you missed? What about the angle that you didn't take to get a steal? What about the rebound or the boxing out that you didn't do to get the rebound? What about the pass that you threw away that turned into a turnover that, led to a turnover to a fast break and an easy score for the other team? You have to look at everything and take responsibility for what you didn't do or what you did that caused, some kind of issue or challenge on the court. And then it's your responsibility to go figure that out and fix it. Same thing with my job. If I have one of my employees come to me and tell me that I'm not doing a good job, or that there's something else they need from me, and it kind of being critical, I have to listen to that, right? I have to take it into consideration and understand, like, well, what am I doing? Think about it and talk to them about it and figure out where they're coming from with this. Did I do it wrong? If I immediately go into offense, then I'm missing the point. Because if I want to grow as a leader, and I don't care how long I've been managing for over 10 years. I don't care how long I've been managing. That doesn't mean anything right now. The point is I can continue to grow and get better. And I'm managing a different crop of employees, different age groups. I have different thought processes. But if I want to be better, I have to also make sure that I'm positioning myself to listen, to hear, and to take responsibility when I'm wrong, and be able to say, you know what, you're right. I can be better at that. That's the way you grow, taking responsibility. So again, these are all things that we can do to move forward. And I really pray that as people of God, as heirs, as people who want to be positive and move forward in life and not focus on dwelling on the past, it's going to be important for us to do the things that I mentioned. Life will continue to move on, whether we like it or not. I don't care if we don't think it's fair, whatever the case may be, it's going to keep going, but it's our jobs as heirs of the kingdom to ensure that we are positioning ourselves to be the priest, prophet, kings, the leaders, the investors, we are the money. We should be the bank. We should be, we should have major parts in all the industries around. We should be leading the charge because this is what was promised to us. The blessings of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we're supposed to have dominion. We can't do that if we can't move we can't move forward past hurt and things that happen, to us in the past. We've got to go to that next place. We've got to keep moving forward. You learn from what happened. You learn from your mistakes. You even learn from the things that people may have done to you. Like I said, you may have been a victim, but you can't stay there. We've got to move on. So again, as I always say, as kingdom heirs, we were designed to prosper. We are designed to flow, and that's flowing everything that God has purposed and planned for our lives. So with that, continue to go, continue to grow, and most importantly, continue to flow. I love you guys. Take care. I'll see you next time. Flow on.